The morning commute on a bustling Manhattan subway was a familiar scene of hurried faces and crowded cars. Barron Trump, now 18 and quietly navigating life under the public radar, was seated in a corner of the train, dressed in a simple black hoodie and jeans. His headphones were in, and his gaze rested on the passing tunnels as he made his way to a charity event hosted by a nonprofit his mother had long supported. The subway car screeched to a halt at the next station, and a wave of new passengers filled the already packed space. Among them was an elderly man wearing a faded military jacket adorned with patches and medals. He carried a cane and moved with the deliberate caution of someone who had seen and endured much in life. Spotting no empty seats, the veteran stood near the door, gripping a pole for support as the train lurched forward. Barron noticed him immediately. Without hesitation, he stood up, removing his headphones. "Sir, please take my seat," he said, his voice polite yet firm. The veteran looked at him, his expression initially one of surprise before softening into gratitude. "Thank you, young man," he said, easing into the seat. "That's very kind of you." Barron gave him a small nod and moved to stand by the pole, his tall frame towering above most of the other passengers. The exchange had been brief, but it didn't go unnoticed. Several commuters exchanged glances, some recognizing Barron, and others simply struck by the rare act of courtesy. As the train continued its journey, an older woman sitting across from the veteran leaned forward. "Thank you for your service," she said warmly, addressing the man. The veteran smiled. "It was an honor," he replied. "I served in Vietnam. Those were challenging times, but I'd do it all over again for this country." Barron listened quietly, his respect for the veteran growing with each word. He had always admired the sacrifices made by service members, a sentiment instilled in him by his family's emphasis on patriotism and public service. Yet, standing there in the cramped subway car, he felt an even deeper appreciation for the man sitting before him. The conversation between the veteran and the woman continued, drawing in a few other passengers. Barron stayed silent, observing the interaction and reflecting on how such moments of connection often went unnoticed in the hustle of daily life. The subway reached its next stop, and a man with a smartphone stepped forward. He had been recording the exchange from the moment Barron offered his seat. As the train slowed, he approached Barron. "Hey! You're Barron Trump, right?" he asked, his voice carrying just enough volume to draw more attention. Barron nodded cautiously. "Yes, that's me." The man grinned. "I've got to say, what you did just now was pretty cool. Not everyone would have given up their seat, let alone someone in your position." Embarrassed by the sudden attention, Barron shrugged. "It was the right thing to do. That's all." Unbeknownst to Barron, the video had already been uploaded to social media, accompanied by a caption that read, "Barron Trump quietly gives up his seat to a veteran on the subway. Respect." Within minutes, the clip began to gain traction, sparking a wave of reactions online. By the time Barron reached his destination, his phone was buzzing with notifications. He ignored them, focused instead on the charity event he was attending. The event, held in a community center, aimed to support families of veterans through educational programs and financial assistance. Barron had been volunteering with the organization for months, drawn to its mission and inspired by the stories of resilience and sacrifice he encountered. As he helped set up tables and greet attendees, several people approached him with kind words about the subway incident, which he quickly realized had gone viral. While the attention made him uncomfortable, he was glad that the veteran's story was being highlighted alongside his small act of kindness. One of the event organizers, a woman named Caroline, pulled him aside during a break. "Barron, I just saw the video," she said. "What you did was wonderful. It's not every day that someone in your position shows such humility." Barron shook his head modestly. "I didn't do it for attention. He deserved the seat. That's all there is to it." Caroline smiled. "And that's exactly why it matters." As the event progressed, Barron met several veterans and their families. One man, a retired Marine named James, shared a story that resonated deeply with him. When I came back from Iraq, James said, it was tough to adjust. But organizations like this one made a world of difference. They reminded me that people still cared, that my sacrifices weren't forgotten. Barron listened intently, his respect for James evident. Thank you for sharing that, he said. And thank you for your service. It's stories like yours that make me want to do more. James nodded, his expression warm. You've got a good heart, kid. Keep using it. As the day came to a close, Barron reflected on everything that had transpired. The subway encounter, the event, the stories he had heard. They all reinforced his belief in the power of small actions and genuine connections. He didn't see himself as a hero or a role model, but he understood the impact that kindness could have, especially in a world often consumed by division. Little did he know, the ripples of his simple gesture on the subway were far from over. The viral video had caught the attention of not just social media users, but also major news outlets and prominent figures. By the next morning, Barron's act of kindness would become a national conversation, sparking debates, inspiring challenges, and even leading to an unexpected reunion that would change his life forever. The morning after the subway incident, Barron Trump woke to a whirlwind of media coverage and social media chatter. The video of him giving up his seat to the veteran had gone viral, amassing millions of views overnight. Headlines range from Barron Trump's simple act of kindness goes viral, to teen Trump shocks subway passengers with humility. For someone who had spent most of his life avoiding the limelight, Barron was now front and center in a way he hadn't anticipated. As he scrolled through his phone, Barron was struck by the overwhelming mix of comments. There were heartfelt messages from veterans thanking him for his respect, tweets from parents using his actions to teach their children about kindness, and, of course, critics who managed to twist the narrative into something political. He sighed, placing his phone down on the kitchen counter. His mother, Melania, walked into the room, her expression soft but curious. "Barron, I saw the news," she said, pouring herself a cup of tea. "How are you feeling about all this attention?" Barron shrugged. "It's a lot, Mom. I didn't expect any of this. I just gave up my seat. It wasn't a big deal." Melania placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Sometimes, the smallest gestures can mean the most. People see your heart, and that is what matters. But remember, you can choose how to respond to this attention." Barron nodded, appreciating her advice, but still unsure of what to do next. Meanwhile, the video continued to spark discussions across the country. Talk shows debated the significance of Barron's act, with some praising him as a role model for young people, and others dissecting the pressures of being a Trump in the public eye. The veteran, identified as Henry Lawson, was also tracked down by local reporters. In an interview, Henry shared his thoughts on the moment. "That young man didn't owe me anything," he said, his voice gravelly but warm. "He didn't make a fuss, didn't expect recognition. He just did the right thing. And that's what stood out to me." Henry's story resonated deeply with viewers. A Vietnam veteran who had spent decades volunteering at local shelters and mentoring young people. He was beloved in his community, but had lived a humble, quiet life. His chance encounter with Barron brought his own history of service into the spotlight, reminding people of the sacrifices made by veterans across the country. At the same time, Barron's phone buzzed with a call from Caroline, the organizer of the veteran charity event he had attended the previous day. "Barron, you won't believe this," Caroline said excitedly. "We've had a massive surge in donations and volunteer sign-ups since yesterday. People are referencing your story and saying it inspired them to get involved. What you did is making a real difference." Barron was taken aback. "That's great to hear, but I didn't do anything special," he said modestly. Caroline's voice softened. "Sometimes it's the unassuming acts that have the biggest impact. You've reminded people of the power of kindness, and that's no small thing." The conversation left Barron feeling both humbled and encouraged. He realized that while he hadn't sought attention, he now had an opportunity to channel it towards something meaningful. A few days later, Barron received an invitation from a national veterans organization to attend their annual gala as an honored guest. The event aimed to celebrate acts of service and support for the veteran community, and the organization wanted to recognize Barron's gesture as a symbol of respect for those who had served. Initially hesitant, Barron discussed the invitation with his mother. "I'm not sure if I should go," he admitted. "I don't want to seem like I'm taking credit for something so simple." Melania smiled gently. "Barron, this isn't about taking credit. It's about showing support and using this moment to uplift others. If you go, you can help shine a light on the veterans who deserve recognition." Her words convinced him, and Barron agreed to attend. The gala was held in a grand ballroom adorned with American flags and banners honoring veterans. Attendees included service members, their families, and prominent figures from various industries. As Barron entered the room, he was greeted with warm smiles and firm handshakes. Despite the formal setting, he felt a sense of camaraderie and respect that put him at ease. During the event, Barron was called to the stage to share a few words. Standing before the audience, he felt a mix of nerves and gratitude. "Good evening," he began, his voice steady. "I'm incredibly honored to be here tonight. A few days ago, I gave up my seat on a subway train for a veteran. It was a simple gesture, one that I believe anyone would have done in my place. But what I've learned since then is that even small acts can have a big impact." He paused, glancing at the faces in the crowd. "I want to thank all the veterans here tonight for their service and sacrifice. You've given so much to this country, and it's because of you that people like me have the freedom to dream and grow. This moment isn't about me. It's about you, and I hope to continue supporting your community in any way I can." The audience erupted into applause, and Barron's cheeks flushed with a mix of pride and humility. As he left the stage, he was approached by Henry Lawson, the veteran from the subway. "Barron," Henry said, his voice filled with emotion, "you've done more than you realize. Thank you for showing respect when it mattered. And thank you for reminding people that we're still here, still part of this nation's story." Barron shook Henry's hand firmly. "It's the least I could do. Thank you for everything you've done for this country." As the evening drew to a close, Barron reflected on how a single moment of kindness had snowballed into something much larger. He realized that his actions, no matter how small they seemed, had the power to inspire others and create positive change. The following weeks saw Barron becoming more involved with veteran initiatives. He volunteered at shelters, participated in fundraising events, and even helped organize a mentorship program, connecting veterans with young people. Through it all, he remained humble, focused on the impact rather than the recognition. Little did he know, his journey was only beginning. The connections he made and the lessons he learned would shape the path ahead, leading him to discover not only his own potential, but also the profound strength found in unity and compassion. The aftermath of the viral subway moment and Barron Trump's growing involvement with veteran initiatives had firmly established him as a young figure of quiet inspiration. But the journey that had started with a simple act of kindness was far from over. What Barron didn't anticipate was how deeply his actions would ripple through the lives of others, forging connections and sparking change in ways he could never have foreseen. Several weeks after the Veterans Gala, Barron received a handwritten letter in the mail. It was from Henry Lawson, the Vietnam veteran whose story had become intertwined with his own. "Dear Barron, I wanted to thank you again for your kindness on the subway and for everything you've done since. What you may not realize is how much that moment meant to me personally. For years, I've felt like the sacrifices my brothers and I made during the war had been forgotten by so many. Your gesture reminded me that respect and gratitude still exist in this world. There's one more thing I'd like to share. I have a granddaughter, Lily, who's been struggling with finding her place in the world. She's only a couple of years younger than you and could use some guidance. If you're open to it, I think she'd benefit greatly from meeting someone like you. With gratitude, Henry." Barron read the letter twice, struck by the sincerity of Henry's words. He didn't consider himself someone who had all the answers, but he felt compelled to help. The next day, he reached out to Henry to arrange a meeting with Lily. When Barron met Lily at a small cafe near Central Park, he was greeted by a shy but determined young woman. She had Henry's sharp eyes and an air of quiet strength, though her posture hinted at uncertainty. "Hi, Lily," Barron said warmly, extending a hand. "It's nice to meet you. Your grandfather speaks very highly of you." Lily smiled nervously. "Thanks for meeting me. I've heard a lot about you, too." Over the course of their conversation, Barron learned about Lily's struggles. She had been an aspiring artist, but had put her dreams on hold after losing confidence in her abilities. She felt adrift, unsure of what direction to take in life. "I know how that feels," Barron said, his tone empathetic. "For a long time, I felt like I was defined by my last name, like people would never see me for who I really am. But I've learned that finding your path is about small steps. It's about focusing on what you can do today, not worrying about what everyone else thinks." Lily nodded thoughtfully. "I guess I've been so afraid of failing that I haven't even tried." "Then start small," Barron encouraged. "Sketch something just for yourself, not for anyone else. Build your confidence one piece at a time." Their meeting ended with a handshake and a promise from Lily to pick up her sketchpad again. Barron left feeling hopeful that he'd made a difference, however small. Lily's story was just one of many connections Barron made in the months that followed. His growing involvement in community initiatives brought him into contact with people from all walks of life, each with their own challenges and triumphs. He found himself inspired by their resilience and driven to do more. One such opportunity came in the form of a collaboration with a national art program for veterans. The program aimed to provide creative outlets for service members coping with trauma, and Lily's renewed passion for art made her an ideal candidate to participate. When Barron introduced the idea to her, she hesitated. "What if I'm not good enough?" she asked. "You'll never know unless you try," Barron replied. "Besides, this isn't about being perfect. It's about expressing yourself and connecting with others." With his encouragement, Lily joined the program and quickly discovered a supportive community of artists who shared her struggles and aspirations. Her confidence grew with each piece she created, and she even had one of her works selected for a public exhibition. At the opening night of the exhibition, Barron attended alongside Henry and Lily's parents. As they stood before her painting, a vivid depiction of a lone soldier standing tall against a stormy sky, Henry's voice was thick with emotion. "You've made me so proud, Lily," he said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "And you too, Barron. None of this would have happened without you." Barron shook his head. "This is all Lily. She had the courage to take the first step. I just gave her a nudge." The exhibition's success led to more opportunities for Barron to advocate for programs that supported veterans and young people alike. He began speaking at events, not just as a Trump, but as a young leader committed to fostering empathy and action. While the public spotlight still made him uncomfortable at times, he saw it as a tool to amplify causes he cared about. One of his most memorable moments came during a town hall meeting organized by a veterans advocacy group. Barron was invited to participate in a panel discussion alongside Henry and several other veterans. The conversation focused on bridging generational divides and finding common ground in an increasingly polarized world. When it was Barron's turn to speak, he shared a simple but powerful message. "Kindness doesn't require a platform or a title," he said. "It starts with the choices we make every day. Choosing to listen, choosing to help, choosing to respect one another. Small actions can create ripples that lead to bigger changes, and everyone has the ability to make a difference." The audience's response was overwhelming, with many lining up afterward to thank Barron and share their own stories of how small acts of kindness had changed their lives. As the year came to a close, Barron reflected on everything that had unfolded since the subway encounter. What had begun as a moment of simple courtesy had grown into a journey of connection, advocacy, and self-discovery. He had learned that leadership wasn't about commanding attention or seeking recognition. It was about showing up, listening, and taking meaningful action. On New Year's Eve, Barron received a message from Lily. Attached was a photo of her latest painting, a vibrant scene of a bustling subway car, with a young man standing tall as an elderly veteran took his seat. The caption read, "Kindness in motion." Barron smiled as he replied, "Keep creating, Lily. The world needs your art." In the quiet of that moment, Barron felt a deep sense of gratitude, not just for the opportunities he'd been given, but for the people who had taught him the true meaning of impact. He knew his journey was far from over, but he was ready to embrace whatever came next, one small act at a time.